It was an ordinary morning in the bustling city, where people hurried through the streets, eyes fixed on their phones or the path ahead. Among the crowd was Isla, a young woman from a poor neighborhood, juggling multiple part-time jobs just to afford her small rented room and support her ailing mother. Despite the hardships, Isla always carried a bright smile, the kind that lit up even the dullest corners of her world. That day, she was rushing through the crowded street market, her heart pounding with both excitement and nerves. Her best friend had promised to meet her near the fountain to celebrate the end of a long, exhausting workweek. When Isla spotted a tall man in a dark suit standing with his back to her, she instantly assumed it was her friend, the same build, the same hair color, even the same stance. Without a moment's hesitation, she ran forward, laughing, and threw her arms around him from behind in a warm, spontaneous hug. For a brief second, time froze. The man stiffened in surprise, not used to such sudden affection, while Isla cheerfully said, "I've missed you so much. You won't believe what happened today," but as he slowly turned around, her words died in her throat. The face staring back at her wasn't her friend's. It was Ethan Vale, the city's most well-known millionaire, a man who graced magazine covers, owned multiple companies, and was known for his intimidating presence and emotionless demeanor. Isla gasped and immediately stepped back, her cheeks flushing deep red. I'm so sorry, sir. I thought you were someone else," she stammered, trembling with embarrassment. People nearby began to whisper, some even pulling out their phones, thinking a scene was about to unfold. But instead of anger, Ethan's reaction shocked everyone, including himself. For the first time in years, he didn't feel annoyance or superiority. Instead, he felt something unfamiliar, warmth. The girl's genuine laughter, her unguarded affection, and her apologetic sincerity pierced through the cold armor he had built around his heart. He simply smiled, a rare, almost forgotten gesture, and said softly, "It's all right. Mistakes happen." Isla bowed repeatedly, still flustered, and hurried away, leaving behind a faint trace of jasmine perfume and a memory Ethan couldn't shake off. That accidental hug, innocent, pure, and unplanned, had stirred emotions he never knew he still possessed. It was the moment that unknowingly changed both their destinies forever. After that unforgettable moment, Ethan Vale couldn't focus on his usual routine. For a man who managed billion-dollar deals and made decisions that shaped industries, it was strange that a single, accidental hug from a stranger had occupied his mind so completely. Normally, he would dismiss such incidents as meaningless distractions, but this time, it felt different. That girl, Isla, had shown him something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine warmth, free from any hidden agenda. Ethan's life had always been surrounded by people who smiled with their lips but calculated with their minds. Every handshake had strings attached, every compliment came with an expectation. He had grown used to a world where affection was currency and relationships were transactions. That's why Isla's innocent mistake, her nervous laughter, and her honest apology struck him like a chord of forgotten music. It reminded him of the simple humanity he had lost touch with long ago. He found himself thinking about her at unexpected moments, during meetings, in the back seat of his car, even while sipping his morning coffee. Her voice, her expression of genuine shock, and the sparkle of embarrassment in her eyes replayed in his mind like a scene he couldn't turn off. For the first time, he realized how lonely he truly was despite all his wealth and power. Later that evening, Ethan did something unusual. Instead of dining at an exclusive club or attending a corporate event, he told his driver to take him to the same street where the incident had happened. He watched the bustling life around him, street vendors calling out prices, children laughing, and the aroma of fresh bread from a nearby stall. It was chaotic, messy, and real, so unlike his perfectly curated world. He wondered if the girl he'd met lived among these people, working hard each day without the luxury of time or comfort, yet somehow still able to smile so genuinely. That thought humbled him. For years, he had believed that success meant isolation, that emotions were weaknesses. But the memory of that hug, so unguarded and free of pretense, began to melt the ice around his heart. Ethan didn't know her name, or where she came from, but one thing was certain, that small act of mistaken affection had awakened something deep within him, a yearning for connection, for sincerity, for the kind of warmth that no amount of money could ever buy. Days passed, but the memory of that accidental hug lingered in Ethan's thoughts like a melody he couldn't forget. Each morning, as he sat in his glass-walled office overlooking the city skyline, he would catch himself drifting into the same thought, the look in that girl's eyes, the way she spoke without pretension, and how her simple mistake had left a permanent mark on him. It felt absurd to him, a billionaire, haunted by a brief encounter with a stranger from the streets. Yet deep down, he didn't want to forget her. Meanwhile, life for Isla continued its usual struggle. Her world revolved around double shifts, late-night bus rides, and caring for her mother. That embarrassing hug incident replayed in her mind too, but for her, it was just a memory to laugh off, or so she tried to believe. She had no idea that the man she had mistaken for a friend was thinking about her at that very moment. A week later, Isla spotted a small job posting at a corporate building nearby, office assistant needed, Vale Enterprises. She didn't know much about the company, only that it was one of the biggest in the city. The pay was modest, but steady, enough to make a difference in her family's life. Nervous but determined, she submitted her application, never imagining whose company she was applying to. The next morning, Ethan's HR department presented him with a list of shortlisted candidates. Normally, he wouldn't have cared to look, but as he glanced through the files, his attention froze. There she was. The same face, the same eyes, the same name, Isla Noor. For a moment, his heart skipped a beat. Fate, it seemed, had a curious sense of humor. Ethan could have easily rejected her or arranged a private meeting to reveal his identity. But instead, he chose to remain silent. He instructed HR to proceed with her hiring, saying only, "I want to meet her in person after she starts." When Isla arrived for her first day at Vale Enterprises, she was both anxious and amazed by the building's luxury. Little did she know that the man behind the glass doors, the one she had accidentally hugged, was watching her from afar, curious to see if her kindness and sincerity would shine through even in a world built on power and wealth. It was the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted, a twist of destiny that would soon blur the lines between two very different worlds. From the moment Isla started her new job at Vale Enterprises, she threw herself into her duties with quiet determination. She was placed in a modest position, handling files, assisting meetings, and running errands between departments. For her, this opportunity meant stability, dignity, and hope. She was grateful even for the smallest tasks, treating every assignment with care and respect. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan Vale, the company's elusive CEO, had a secret plan in motion. He had specifically asked his management team not to reveal who he was to the new assistant, choosing instead to observe her from a distance. He wanted to know if the warmth he'd witnessed that day on the street was real, or if it was just an innocent coincidence. Years of dealing with insincere people had made him cautious. He had to be sure. Ethan began visiting her department under the guise of a consultant, wearing simpler clothes and leaving behind the aura of wealth and authority that usually surrounded him. Isla, unaware of his true identity, greeted him each time with her trademark kindness. She never tried to impress him, never acted differently, she was simply herself, honest, hardworking, and humble. He noticed how she helped her coworkers without seeking credit, how she stayed late to complete unfinished work, and how she treated even the janitors and delivery staff with respect. When another employee tried to take credit for her work, Isla didn't argue or complain, she just smiled and kept going. Her quiet strength and integrity moved him deeply. One afternoon, Ethan saw her eating a simple homemade meal in the break room, just bread and lentil soup, while she was helping another intern fix a spreadsheet. When he gently asked why she didn't go out to eat, she smiled and said, "It's cheaper this way, and I like saving so I can buy my mom her medicine." That one sentence hit Ethan harder than any boardroom negotiation ever could. For the first time, he saw what real grace looked like, not the polished charm of socialites or the forced smiles of the wealthy, but the pure, unpretentious kindness of a heart untouched by greed. That evening, as Ethan sat in his penthouse overlooking the glowing city, he realized he had never admired anyone this much. This girl, the one who had accidentally hugged him, was teaching him what true character meant. And in testing her sincerity, he discovered something far more valuable, his own humanity returning to life. Weeks passed, and Ethan Vale's fascination with Isla grew stronger each day. He admired her humility, her relentless optimism, and the way she treated everyone around her with respect, regardless of their social standing. Yet, despite the bond forming silently between them, the truth of his identity remained hidden. He knew that when the time came to reveal who he really was, it could either make or break everything. For Isla, life at Vale Enterprises had become a mix of excitement and stress. She had started feeling more confident in her work, earning the quiet respect of her colleagues. But deep down, she couldn't shake the memory of the man she had hugged on the street, the mysterious, kind presence that occasionally appeared as a consultant in her office. She was drawn to him in ways she didn't fully understand, even though she had no idea he was the millionaire himself. One evening, Ethan decided it was time. The company had completed a major project successfully, and he invited Isla to his office under the pretense of congratulating her. As she walked in, she noticed a subtle change. The room was warmer, more personal, and Ethan's usual formal demeanor was replaced by a gentle, nervous smile. "Isla," he began, voice softer than she had ever heard, "there's something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat as she looked up, sensing the gravity of the moment. Then he revealed his true identity: "I'm Ethan Vale, the CEO." Isla froze. Her mind raced with disbelief and shock. The girl who had hugged a stranger out of simple human warmth was now face to face with one of the richest, most powerful men in the city. She stepped back instinctively, unsure of how to process the reality before her. Ethan took a cautious step forward. "I know this must be overwhelming," he said gently. "But I need you to understand something. That accidental hug you gave me, it changed me. I've spent my life surrounded by wealth, influence, and people who cared more about what I could give than who I am. But that hug, it reminded me what real love feels like. Your kindness, your sincerity, your heart, that's what I've been searching for." Tears welled in Isla's eyes. The walls she had built around herself, believing their worlds were too different, began to crumble. She realized that wealth didn't define him, and simplicity didn't define her. What mattered was the connection they had, the truth, the warmth, the love that had blossomed in the unlikeliest of ways. In that moment, the accidental hug that had started it all came full circle. Ethan held out his hand, not as a millionaire, but as a man in love. Isla smiled through her tears, taking it. Together, they stepped into a future where love, honesty, and shared humanity mattered far more than fortune or status.